I made you leave, and I think about it every single day. I wake up, I think about it. I go to bed, I think about it. And it's like this constant reminder that I could have done better, I should have done better. And I didn't even realize it until it was too late. And the worst part, bro, the worst part is that I know I could have fixed it. I know I could have said the right thing, shown up the right way, but I didn't. I didn't because I was scared. Scared of being too much, scared of needing too much, scared of losing control of myself in a way that, I don't know, I felt like you wouldn't understand. And I guess that's the thing, like, it's not that I didn't care. I cared too much, maybe. I loved too hard, or I loved in a way that I didn't know how to manage. And instead of letting you in fully, I pushed you away. And yeah, I see it now. I see it so clearly. But hindsight doesn't bring you back. Hindsight just sits there like a mirror that shouts at you and you can't turn it off. I think about all the times I could have stopped myself, all the moments where I had the choice to be different, to be better, and I just didn't. I convinced myself it was okay to procrastinate on love, like it was something you could save for later. I told myself I'll do it tomorrow, I'll fix it next week. But love doesn't work like that, bro. Love doesn't wait, and I made you wait. And you didn't deserve that, not even a little bit. I made you leave because I was selfish, and I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. I kept thinking about my pride, my comfort, my fear of showing weakness, and meanwhile, you were giving everything, every piece of yourself, every ounce of patience, every moment of hope, and I was too blind to see it. Or maybe I saw it and I didn't want to deal with it, didn't want to confront it. I didn't want to confront myself, and that's the thing I hate admitting most. I didn't just fail you, I failed myself. You tried to tell me, you tried to show me in ways that I should have gotten. You said things like, I need you here, not just sometimes, not just when it's convenient. And I nodded. I nodded and smiled, and I said I understood, but I didn't. I didn't understand because I didn't want to. I wanted it easy, I wanted it simple, and love is never simple, it's messy, and I made it messy. And I made it so heavy that you couldn't carry it anymore, and that's on me. And now I sit here thinking about how it all fell apart so quietly. No fights, no yelling, no big exit. Just you leaving. Just you walking out in a way that was calm, steady, almost like you'd already rehearsed it 100 times. And I watched. And I didn't stop you. Because part of me, the coward in me, the scared part, was like, maybe you'll come back. And I kept saying to myself, maybe you'll come back, maybe this isn't over yet, while every sign, every little cue was screaming at me that it was too late. I made you leave, and I think the thing that kills me the most is that I know if I could go back, I'd do it all differently. I wouldn't hesitate, I wouldn't hide, I wouldn't try to protect myself from feeling too much. I'd go full in. But you don't get that second chance, bro. People don't stick around for lessons. They leave and then they heal. And you're left holding nothing but your own regret. And I hate that I've gotten so used to being scared. I hate that I let fear dictate love. I hate that my own insecurities, my own bullshit drove you out. And yeah, it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's mine to swallow. It's mine and mine alone, and there's no one else to blame. You didn't leave because you didn't love me enough. You left because I made you leave. And I don't know how you move on from that. I don't know how you forgive yourself for staying so long with someone who didn't show up when it mattered. And I know I'll carry it forever. I know I'll think about it, replay it, dissect it, overanalyze it, probably until the day I die. And it's exhausting. And I hate myself sometimes for it, but then I realize I also needed to feel it, to feel the weight of what I lost, to actually understand what I did wrong. I keep thinking about the moments where I could have said more, held more, been more present. I keep thinking about the nights you stayed up waiting for me to text back, the conversations you started because you were worried I was pulling away, the little reminders, the subtle signs I didn't catch or didn't want to catch. And I hate that I can see it all now and it's too late. It's all too late. I made you leave, and I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself for that. Not because you hate me or because you're gone, but because I know it was preventable. I know it wasn't fate, it wasn't timing, it was me, all of it. Me, my hesitations, my fears, my selfishness, my inability to give love the way it deserved. And every day I wake up, I think about it again and I tell myself, don't make the same mistake again. But the truth is, bro, I don't know if I can fix it. I don't know if I can stop being the person who pushes away the people who actually matter. I don't know if I can be brave enough to love without overthinking, without holding back. And that's what haunts me the most. That I made you leave, and I'm not even sure I've learned enough to keep it from happening again. After you left, everything got louder. That's the part nobody really talks about. Like, the silence isn't quiet, it's noisy as hell. It's your thoughts bouncing off the walls, replaying shit you said, shit you didn't say, moments you brushed off like they didn't matter. And suddenly they matter more than anything. Suddenly they're all you've got. I kept telling myself I was fine. I really did. I went out more, stayed busy, kept people around so I didn't have to sit alone with it. And yeah, on the surface, it probably looked like I was okay. Maybe even relieved. But the truth is, I was running. I was running from the version of myself you saw so clearly. The one I didn't want to admit existed. Because once you were gone, I couldn't blame anyone else anymore. I couldn't say I was overwhelmed or misunderstood or unlucky in love. It was just me. Me and the pattern I kept repeating. Me and the way I pull people close just to flinch when they get too comfortable. Me and the way I mistake distance for control. And it hit me one night out of nowhere. I was laying there, phone in my hand, scrolling through nothing, and I realized I didn't miss the fights or the stress or even the relationship itself. I missed how safe I felt when you believed in me more than I believed in myself. And that messed me up, because I didn't protect that. I didn't nurture it. I treated it like it would always be there. I started asking myself questions I'd avoided for years. Like, why do I shut down when things get real? Why do I feel like love is something I have to ration, like if I give too much of it, I'll lose myself? And I didn't like the answers. The answers were ugly. The answers pointed back to old wounds I never healed, just learned how to hide better. I realize I don't leave people physically, I make them leave emotionally. I get cold, I get distant, I start acting like I don't need them, like I could take it or leave it, and eventually they leave. And then I get to play the victim. I get to say, see, everyone leaves. But this time, I couldn't lie to myself like that. This time I knew exactly what I was doing. I thought about all the times you asked me what was wrong and I said nothing. All the times you needed reassurance and I acted annoyed, like your needs were an inconvenience. I thought about how many chances you gave me to show up differently. And that's when the guilt really set in. Not the dramatic kind. The quiet kind that sits in your chest and makes it hard to breathe. I kept wondering if you knew what you were doing when you left. If you knew that walking away would finally force me to look at myself. And part of me resents that, if I'm being honest. Because growth hurts. Accountability hurts. It's easier to blame timing or circumstances than to admit you were the common denominator. I tried talking to other people after you. Tried proving to myself that I could move on. That you weren't that special. That love was replaceable. And it was empty. Every conversation felt hollow. Every laugh felt forced. Because I wasn't looking for them. I was looking for the way you made me feel when I wasn't sabotaging everything. And that scared me. It scared me how deeply you got under my skin. How much power you still had over my thoughts without even being here. I didn't want to admit that losing you cracked something open in me. That it exposed how afraid I am of being fully known. I started to see that I don't struggle with loving people. I struggle with letting them love me back. I struggle with trusting that I'm worth staying for when I'm not at my best. So I test people, I pull away, I wait to see if they'll chase. And when they finally stop, I tell myself I was right all along. But you didn't chase forever. You chose yourself. And that's what hurts the most. Not that you left, but that you were strong enough to leave someone who wasn't giving you what you deserved. That kind of strength forces reflection. And reflection is uncomfortable as hell. I sit with it now. I don't distract myself as much. I let the regret wash over me, even when it stings, because pretending I don't care got me here. Pretending I wasn't scared got me here. And I'm starting to realize that if I don't face this, if I don't really sit with who I've been, I'll just keep repeating it. Different name, same ending. And yeah, part of me still hopes you think about me, hopes you wonder if I've changed. But another part of me knows that doesn't matter anymore. Because whether or not you come back, I still have to live with myself. I still have to answer for the way I loved you. And that's where I'm stuck right now. Not missing you in the romantic way people expect, but missing the version of me I could have been if I'd just been brave enough to show up when it mattered. I keep replaying that moment in my head, and it's crazy because it wasn't loud. There was no yelling, no slammed doors. It was quiet, and somehow that makes it worse. Because quiet means we both knew. quiet means you were already gone before your body actually left. I remember the way you looked at me, and it wasn't anger. That's the part that messes me up. If you were mad, I could have handled that. I could have fought that. But you looked tired, like you had already tried everything you had in you, and I hate myself for that. Because I think back and realize you didn't leave because you stopped loving me. You left because loving me started to hurt too much. I was always asking for more patience, more reassurance, more understanding. And I told myself it was because I cared deeply. But caring deeply doesn't mean draining someone dry. I loved you in a way that didn't leave room for you to breathe. I wrapped my fears around you and called it affection. I put my insecurities on your shoulders and expected you to carry them like they were nothing. And you tried. God, you really tried. You stayed on nights you should have left. You explained yourself over and over like maybe if you said it differently, I'd finally get it. You chose me in moments where choosing yourself would have been easier, and I still managed to push you away. I say I made you leave, and people think I'm being dramatic. But I know what I did. I know the sighs I ignored, the silence I didn't ask about, the way I'd apologize and then do the same shit again. I didn't listen. I waited for my turn to talk. I waited for my turn to be right. I waited for my turn to feel validated. And somewhere in that, you stopped feeling seen. That's the part that keeps me up. Not that you're gone, but that you were still here, and I didn't protect you the way you protected me. I thought love was holding on tighter. Turns out sometimes love is knowing when to loosen your grip. And I didn't learn that until your hand slipped out of mine for the last time. I think the hardest part to admit is that I didn't mean to hurt you. And I know that doesn't change anything. Intent doesn't erase damage, but it still sits heavy on my chest. Because if I'm being honest, I was fighting ghosts the entire time. Old wounds, old fears, old versions of myself that never healed. And instead of facing them, I let them live between us. I kept asking you to prove you weren't going to leave, while slowly giving you every reason to. That's the fucked up part. I was so scared of losing you that I became the reason you had to go. I think about all the moments I could have chosen differently. Moments where I could have listened instead of reacted, stayed quiet instead of defensive, loved you in a way that felt safe instead of overwhelming. But hindsight doesn't rewind anything. It just teaches you lessons after the cost has already been paid. I don't blame you anymore. That took time, a lot of it, because for a while it was easier to tell myself you gave up on me, that you didn't try hard enough, that you walked away too soon. But the truth is, you stayed longer than most people would have, and I didn't meet you where you were. I kept expecting you to meet me at my worst without ever doing the work to get better. So yeah, I made you leave, not with one big mistake, but with 100 small ones I swore I'd fix next time, and now next time doesn't exist. I don't tell this story because I want sympathy. I tell it because I needed to hear it myself. Because if I don't own this, I'll repeat it with someone else. And I can't keep breaking people just because I don't know how to hold them properly. I still think about you, probably more than I should, but now it's different. It's quieter, less desperate, more honest. I don't wish you'd come back anymore. I just hope wherever you are, you're loved in a way that doesn't exhaust you. And as for me, I'm learning that loving someone isn't about holding on at all costs. Sometimes it's about letting go, taking the lesson, and becoming someone who doesn't make the same person leave twice. That's it. That's the truth. Am I hard to love? That question didn't come from a fight. It didn't come from an argument or a breakup conversation. It came from the silence that followed. The kind of silence that doesn't slam the door. It just stops answering. The kind that makes you replay everything, not because you want to, but because your mind refuses to move forward without understanding what went wrong. I didn't always ask that question. At first, I blamed timing, distance, stress, different stages of life. I told myself it just wasn't meant to work. But when it keeps happening, when people leave in similar ways with similar exhaustion in their voices, you start to wonder if it's not bad luck. You start to wonder if it's you. I think back to the way I loved, how intense it was, how deeply I felt everything, how quickly I attached meaning to small moments. At the time, I thought that meant I cared more, that I loved harder. Now I'm not so sure, because loving hard doesn't always mean loving well. I wanted reassurance constantly, not because they weren't giving it, but because I didn't trust it to last. Every calm moment felt temporary. Every good day felt fragile, like something bad was waiting around the corner. And instead of enjoying love when it was there, I monitored it. I watched for changes in tone. I noticed response times. I read into body language. I turned silence into stories that hurt me before reality ever could. I didn't tell them I was scared. I didn't say, I feel insecure. I didn't say, I need comfort. I expected them to notice. And when they didn't, I felt unseen. So I pulled back. I told myself I was being independent. I told myself I was protecting my heart. But if I'm being honest, I was testing them. I wanted to see if they'd chase me, if they'd fight for me, if they'd prove I mattered. That's not fair to put on someone. I didn't realize how heavy that kind of love feels from the other side, how confusing it is to love someone who needs reassurance but doesn't know how to ask for it. I wonder now if loving me felt like walking on eggshells, like one wrong move could shift my mood, like they were responsible for keeping me okay. That thought hurts, because I never wanted to be someone people had to manage. I never wanted to be someone who drained the room. I never wanted my insecurities to become someone else's burden. But intention doesn't erase impact. And the more I reflect, the more I see moments where I chose self-protection over vulnerability, where I chose silence over honesty, where I chose control over connection. I didn't trust love when it was calm. I only trusted it when it was loud. And maybe that's where things started to break. So yeah, am I hard to love? I don't ask that to punish myself. I ask it because avoiding the question didn't stop the pattern. And this is where it begins. Once the question settles in your chest, it doesn't leave quietly. It follows you into memories you thought you'd already processed. Moments you once blamed on circumstance start feeling personal. I started looking back, not at how they hurt me, but at how I showed up when things weren't perfect. And that's when it got uncomfortable. I noticed how defensive I became when someone tried to tell me how they felt, how quickly I heard criticism instead of concern, how fast my guard went up the moment I felt misunderstood. I wasn't listening to connect. I was listening to protect myself. Every serious conversation felt like a threat. Every boundary felt like rejection. Every request felt like proof that I wasn't enough as I was. So I reacted. I explained myself instead of listening. I justified my behavior instead of acknowledging their feelings. I focused on being right instead of being safe to talk to. I told myself that's not what I meant. But what they were saying wasn't about my intent. It was about how they felt. And I didn't realize how invalidating that can be. I see it now. I wanted unconditional understanding, but I didn't always offer emotional safety in return. I wanted patience, but I struggled to sit with discomfort. I wanted reassurance, but I resisted vulnerability. I wanted love without exposure, and that doesn't exist. I think about how inconsistent I could be, how some days I was open, affectionate, fully present, and other days I was distant, quiet, unreachable, not because they did something wrong, but because my own thoughts got loud. I didn't communicate when I was overwhelmed. I withdrew, and silence is confusing. It makes people guess. It makes them question where they stand. I wonder how many times someone felt like they were losing me without knowing why. That thought sits heavy, because I never wanted to make anyone feel unsure. I just didn't know how to sit with my own uncertainty. I also realize now how much pressure I put on love to fix things it was never meant to fix. I wanted love to heal my self-doubt, to quiet my anxiety, to give me a sense of worth I hadn't built on my own. And when it didn't, I felt disappointed, hurt, unfulfilled. But that wasn't fair to them. They weren't failing me. I was asking them to carry things that weren't theirs. I confused closeness with security, intensity with intimacy, attachment with love. And when the intensity faded, as it naturally does, I panicked. I mistook stability for boredom, calm for distance, peace for disinterest. So I searched for problems, or created them, because chaos felt familiar. And that's when it really hit me. I wasn't hard to love because I was too much. I was hard to love because I didn't know how to be steady. I didn't know how to trust love when it wasn't constantly proving itself. And the saddest part, I didn't see it while it was happening. I only saw it once it was over. Once they were tired. Once they stopped trying to explain. Once the silence wasn't temporary anymore. That's when the question stopped feeling theoretical. Am I hard to love? Or am I just afraid to be fully seen? That question stopped being abstract once I realized something important. I wasn't just afraid of being abandoned. I was afraid of being truly known. Because being known means being seen clearly. And if someone sees you clearly, they can leave for reasons you can't deny. So instead of letting people see me fully, I controlled the version of myself they got. I showed strength when I was scared, indifference when I was hurt, confidence when I was unsure. I thought that made me easier to love, but it did the opposite. It made me unpredictable. People never knew which version of me they were going to get. The open one or the closed one, the affectionate one or the distant one, the calm one or the overthinking one. And inconsistency doesn't feel romantic from the outside. It feels unsafe. I see now how often I waited for people to prove they cared instead of trusting that they did. How I needed repeated confirmation not because they weren't giving it, but because I didn't believe it could last. I kept one foot out the door emotionally, not to leave them, but to soften the blow if they did. And when you love someone with an exit plan in your pocket, they feel it. They feel the hesitation, the lack of surrender, the way you never fully settle into the relationship. I thought I was being cautious, but I was being guarded. And guarded love is exhausting to receive. I also had to face how much pride played a role in my behavior. How difficult it was for me to admit when I was wrong without explaining myself. How apologies felt incomplete because I still needed to be understood. I'm sorry, but that "but" did damage because it shifted the focus back to me. I didn't realize how often I centered my own pain in moments where someone else was asking to be heard. How my fear of being the bad guy made it impossible to sit in accountability. I wasn't abusive, I wasn't cruel, but I wasn't emotionally mature either. And maturity isn't about good intentions. It's about how you respond when someone tells you they're hurting. I think about how many times I could have paused instead of reacting. How many moments could have gone differently if I'd chosen curiosity over defensiveness. What are you feeling? What do you need? How can I show up better? Those questions didn't come naturally to me then, because asking them meant accepting that I wasn't perfect, that I contributed to the breakdown, that love didn't fail. I did in small ways over time. That realization didn't break me. It humbled me. I stopped asking whether I was hard to love in a self-pitying way and started asking it in a responsible one. Not what's wrong with me, but what patterns am I repeating? Because patterns are fixable. Blind spots can be illuminated, habits can be unlearned, and for the first time I felt something different than shame. I felt ownership. I couldn't change the past. I couldn't undo the exhaustion I caused. I couldn't rewrite the endings. But I could stop carrying the same version of myself into the future, and that mattered. So maybe I was hard to love, not because I was unworthy, but because I was unprepared. Unprepared to trust, unprepared to communicate, unprepared to stay present when love wasn't loud, and realizing that didn't make me smaller. It gave me a direction. I don't ask that question the same way anymore. It used to come from shame, from replaying endings, from wondering what people saw in me that made them leave. Now it comes from awareness, because the truth is, I'm not hard to love when I'm honest. I'm not hard to love when I communicate instead of withdrawing. I'm not hard to love when I stop asking people to read my mind. I had to learn that love doesn't require perfection. It requires responsibility. Responsibility for how my fear shows up. Responsibility for how my silence affects others. Responsibility for how my past bleeds into the present. I started doing the uncomfortable work, not all at once, not cleanly, but consistently. I learned to pause before reacting, to name insecurity instead of hiding it, to ask for reassurance without testing someone's loyalty. I'm feeling unsure right now. I need a little comfort. I'm not upset, I'm just overwhelmed. Those words felt exposing at first, but exposure is safer than confusion. I also learned to let people be human, to stop expecting them to fix things they didn't break, to stop measuring love by how anxious it made me feel, to stop confusing calm with disinterest. Peace isn't boring. It's unfamiliar, and unfamiliar doesn't mean wrong. I don't disappear anymore when things get heavy. I don't go silent to feel in control. I don't punish people with distance. When I mess up, because I still do, I own it. No explaining, no defending, no shifting the blame, just accountability. Because growth isn't about never hurting people. It's about noticing when you do, and changing fast enough that it doesn't become a pattern. I've learned that love doesn't leave because you're imperfect. It leaves when it feels unsafe to stay. And safety isn't built through intensity, it's built through consistency, communication, and trust. So if love comes back into my life, and I believe it won't meet the version of me that was quietly begging to be chosen. It'll meet someone who knows how to stay present, someone who doesn't turn fear into distance, someone who understands that being loved starts with being honest. Am I hard to love? Maybe I was. But I'm not committed to being that person anymore. And that's the difference. I met the love of my life in a moment that didn't feel important enough to remember forever. That's the cruel part. The moments that change everything never announce themselves. They don't arrive with music or warnings. They just happen quietly. And by the time you realize what they were, they're already behind you. At first it felt harmless, easy. We talk the way people talk when they don't know yet that they're standing on the edge of something irreversible. Long conversations that drifted from jokes to confessions without either of us noticing the shift. The kind of connection that makes time feel flexible, like hours can stretch or disappear depending on how close you're sitting. I told myself it was just comfort, just chemistry, just coincidence. I didn't tell myself the truth that I had never felt so understood by another person in my entire life. They saw me, not the version I showed everyone else, but the quiet one underneath. The one with doubts I never said out loud, the one who second-guessed every decision but pretended not to care. And somehow, without prying, without demanding explanations, they made space for all of it. I should have been brave then. Instead, I was careful not to read into things, careful not to ruin what we already had. Careful not to admit that every time my phone lit up with their name, my chest felt lighter. Careful not to imagine what it would be like to hold their hand, to choose them openly, to stop pretending this was something casual. I told myself there would be time. That's the lie I believe the most. We danced around each other in a language made of almost confessions, almost touches, almost moments where the truth sat between us, heavy and obvious, waiting for one of us to say something real. I think they felt it too. I know they did. You don't look at someone the way they looked at me without wanting more. But wanting something isn't the same as choosing it. Fear is quieter than love, but it's more convincing. It sounds responsible, logical. It tells you to wait until you're ready, until the timing is right, until you're better, stronger, more certain. I listened to it every time my heart tried to speak, so I stayed silent. Days turned into memories before I realized what was happening. The closeness softened, the conversation shortened. Life did what it always does. It kept moving, whether I was ready or not, and then one day they told me they had met someone else. They didn't say it to hurt me. They said it gently, almost apologetically, like they were worried about my feelings even then. I smiled, I congratulated them. I told them I was happy for them. I have never lied so convincingly in my life. That night I sat alone and tried to understand how something that never officially existed could hurt this much. There was no breakup, no argument, no moment I could point to and say this is when it ended. There was only the quiet realization that I had lost something irreplaceable without ever fighting for it. Grief without permission is a strange thing. You don't feel entitled to it. You tell yourself you have no right to be this devastated because nothing was promised. Nothing was defined. But your heart doesn't care about technicalities. It only knows what it recognized when it found home in another person. I replay every moment now, searching for the courage I didn't have. The things I could have said. The the chances I felt but ignored. I wonder how different my life would be if I had risked rejection instead of guaranteeing regret. Because that's the truth no one tells you. Not trying is still a choice, and it comes with consequences. I see them sometimes happy, settled, living a life that might have been mine if I had spoken up sooner. And I'm genuinely glad they found love. I just wish it didn't hurt so much knowing I let mine walk away because I was too afraid to reach for it. There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes from knowing you recognize something rare and still let it go. It follows you into other relationships, other connections. You compare without meaning to. You measure everyone against the way they made you feel without trying. Some loves don't break your heart by leaving. Some break it by waiting for you to choose them and realizing you never will. If I've learned anything from this, it's that love doesn't always demand grand gestures. Sometimes it just asks for honesty at the right moment. And if you don't give it that, it doesn't punish you loudly. It just becomes a memory, one you carry quietly, one that teaches you, far too late, that the scariest thing about love isn't losing it. It's realizing you never even tried to keep it. I need to say this out loud because it's the truth I avoided for too long. I didn't push you away because I didn't care. I pushed you away because I cared too much and didn't know how to feel safe in it. That's the part people don't understand. I didn't wake up one day and decide to sabotage us. I didn't plan to make things harder. I didn't want distance. I wanted proof. Proof that you wouldn't leave when things got uncomfortable. Proof that you'd fight for me when I stopped being easy to love. Proof that I mattered even when I wasn't at my best. So I tested you. Not consciously, not proudly, but consistently. I'd pull back just enough to see if you noticed. I'd go quiet just long enough to see if you'd reach out. I'd act cold just to see if you'd stay warm. And every time you leaned in, I felt relief. For a moment. Then the fear came back. Because reassurance doesn't last when the wound is internal. I didn't know how to say, I'm scared you'll leave. So instead I acted like I didn't need you. I didn't know how to ask, can you stay? So instead I gave you reasons not to. That's the part that still hurts to admit. I made love conditional without realizing it. I treated closeness like a test instead of a gift. If you stayed through my silence, you passed. If you fought for me when I withdrew, you passed. If you chased me when I pulled away, you passed. But love isn't supposed to be something you earn by enduring pain. And deep down I knew that. I just didn't know how to stop. Because vulnerability felt dangerous. And distance felt like control. I told myself I was protecting my heart. But really, I was protecting myself from being seen. I had learned somewhere along the way that if people saw the real me, the insecure parts, the anxious parts, the parts that needed reassurance, they would leave. So I tried to become someone who didn't need anyone. And when you loved me anyway, I didn't trust it. That's the quiet irony. I wanted closeness, but I didn't trust it. I wanted love, but I didn't believe it would stay. I wanted you, but I was afraid of how much. So I tested you. And tests don't build relationships, they strain them. The problem with testing love is that eventually people stop trying to pass. At first you did everything right. You checked in when I went quiet. You asked what was wrong even when I said nothing. You tried to close gaps I kept creating. And every time you reached for me, it confirmed what I needed to believe. You care. But the relief never lasted. Because fear doesn't disappear when it's fed. It grows. So I raised the stakes. I became harder to read, slower to respond, less available, not because I wanted space, but because I wanted certainty. I told myself if they really love me, they won't leave. And when you stayed, I felt powerful. That's another ugly truth. Distance gave me control. As long as I was the one pulling away, I couldn't be abandoned. As long as I stayed guarded, I couldn't be blindsided. I confused control with safety, and safety with love, but love doesn't thrive in uncertainty. It withers. You started asking if I was okay, if I was happy, if something had changed, and instead of answering honestly, I minimized. I'm fine. I just need space. Don't overthink it. But I was overthinking everything. I just didn't want to admit how fragile I felt inside. So I let you carry the confusion. I let you wonder what you did wrong. I let you question your worth. And I hate that now. because you didn't deserve to feel like you were constantly chasing stability. But at the time, I convinced myself that love should be proven under pressure, that if you couldn't handle me at my worst, you didn't deserve me at my best. What I didn't realize was that I was manufacturing my worst. I wasn't being authentic, I was being defensive, I wasn't setting boundaries. I was setting traps. And every time you stumbled into one, a part of me felt validated. See? They're still here. But another part of me felt ashamed, because love shouldn't feel like a loyalty test. It shouldn't require endurance. And slowly I started noticing the shift. You stopped asking as many questions, you stopped pushing as hard, you stopped chasing me into silence. Not because you didn't care, but because you were tired. And tired love doesn't announce itself. It fades. There's a moment where you stop asking, why are they changing? And start asking, why am I? That moment didn't come gently. It came when I noticed you weren't reacting anymore. You didn't chase my silence. You didn't press for reassurance. You didn't lean in when I leaned out. You matched my distance, and suddenly the power I thought I had disappeared. Because the truth is, testing love only works when the other person keeps trying. The second they stop, you're forced to face what you've been doing. I remember the panic, the sharp realization that what I'd been calling space now felt like loss, that the distance I created was no longer under my control, and instead of feeling validated, I felt exposed, because now there was no one proving anything, no one reassuring me, no one fighting through my walls, just silence. And silence doesn't confirm love, it reveals reality. I started replaying everything, the times I went cold instead of honest, the times I withdrew instead of asking for reassurance, the times I pretended I didn't care just to feel safe. I saw it clearly for the first time. I wasn't being strong, I was being afraid, I wasn't independent, I was guarded, I wasn't protecting myself from pain, I was guaranteeing it. You didn't stop loving me all at once. You wore down, and that realization hurt more than anger ever could, because anger means there's still energy left, still emotion. Tiredness means the fight is over. I finally understood something I wish I'd learned sooner. Love doesn't leave because it isn't tested enough. It leaves because it's tested too much. No one wants to feel like they're constantly proving their worth. And I had turned love into a performance. I needed you to show up on cue, to reassure me on demand, to stay steady while I stayed uncertain. And I never stopped to ask what that was costing you. That's the part that sits with me now. Not the arguments, not the silence, but the fact that I made someone feel like loving me required endurance. And the hardest truth, you didn't fail my tests. I did. When love finally let go, it didn't feel dramatic, it felt empty. No more tension, no more tests, no more chasing or pulling away, just space. And for the first time, I had nothing to hide behind. No silence to weaponize, no distance to control the outcome, no version of myself that looked unbothered, just me. And that's when I understood something that changed everything. I wasn't afraid of losing you. I was afraid of being seen needing reassurance, seen wanting closeness, seen hoping someone would stay without being challenged to. I had learned somewhere along the way that love had to be earned through struggle, that if someone stayed through my worst behavior, it meant they were real. But love isn't proven by suffering, it's proven by safety. And I hadn't been safe. Not because I was cruel, but because I was closed. I mistook emotional distance for strength. I mistook detachment for independence. I mistook control for confidence. And by the time I realized the difference, you had already learned how to stop reaching. That's the consequence of testing love. Eventually, love stops volunteering. I don't hate myself for what I did, but I won't deny it either. Because growth doesn't come from pretending you were misunderstood. It comes from admitting you were afraid. If I love again, I don't want to be someone people have to prove themselves to. I want to be someone who makes staying feel easier than leaving. I want to say what I feel instead of hiding behind silence. I want to ask for reassurance instead of creating distance. I want to trust without demanding proof first. Because love isn't something you test. It's something you tend. And if someone ever walks away again, I don't want it to be because I made them feel like loving me was a challenge they eventually failed. Next time, I don't want to test love. I want to choose it. What if I'm the problem? Not them. Not the timing. Not the distance. Not the circumstances I keep blaming. What if every relationship that ended, Every goodbye I didn't see coming, every moment I felt abandoned, has one thing in common: me. That thought didn't come gently. It didn't feel insightful or mature. It felt like my chest collapsing inward at 2:37 in the morning, staring at a ceiling I've memorized because sleep keeps avoiding me. Because during the day it's easier. During the day I can convince myself I tried my best, that I loved hard, that I cared deeply, that I was the one who got hurt. But night doesn't let you lie. At night, memories stop being selective. They show up uninvited, not the highlight reel, but the moments I edited out, the tone in my voice, the way I shut down instead of speaking up, the way I needed reassurance but asked for it in ways that pushed people away. I replay conversations I wish I could take back, not because of what they said, but because of how I responded. I see it now. I loved like someone who was afraid of being left. Every "are we okay?" wasn't really a question. It was a plea. Every time I pulled away, it wasn't confidence, and it was fear wearing armor. I didn't say, "I'm scared you'll leave." I said, "You're acting different." I didn't say, "I feel insecure." I said, "I don't care anymore," hoping they'd prove me wrong. And the worst part, I thought I was protecting myself. I told myself I was just being cautious, that I was guarding my heart, that I was strong for not needing anyone too much. But strength doesn't look like shutting people out, and protection doesn't look like sabotaging something before it can hurt you. I think back to how quickly my mood could change, how one unanswered text could spiral into assumptions, how silence felt like rejection instead of just silence. I didn't realize it then, but I was asking people to heal wounds they didn't cause. I brought old pain into new love and expected it to behave differently. And when it didn't, I resented them for it. I noticed the pattern now, how I loved intensely at first, how I showed up fully emotionally, almost desperately. And then slowly, fear crept in. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being replaced. Fear of loving harder than I was loved back, so I started testing them. Not out loud, not directly. I tested them with distance, with coldness, with silence. I wanted proof without asking for it. That's not love, that's insecurity disguised as independence. And it hurts to admit because I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I wasn't malicious, I wasn't careless, I was unhealed. I thought love would fix me, that being chosen would finally quiet the voice in my head that says, "You're not enough," that if someone stayed long enough, the fear would eventually disappear. But it doesn't work like that. Love doesn't erase insecurity, it exposes it. And mine was loud. So what if I'm the problem? Not in the way that makes me a villain, but in the way that forces me to look inward instead of outward. Because blaming others kept me comfortable, but questioning myself, that changes everything. And this is where it starts. I wish the realization ended there. I wish awareness was enough to stop the damage. But knowing you're the problem doesn't immediately make you better. It just makes the mirror harder to avoid. Once I asked the question, I couldn't stop seeing the answers. I started noticing how defensive I got when someone brought up how they felt. How quickly I heard criticism instead of concern. How often I turned conversations into debates instead of listening. I wasn't listening to understand, I was listening to survive. Every serious talk felt like a threat. Every boundary felt like rejection. Every request felt like proof that I wasn't enough as I was. So I pushed back, I minimized their feelings, I justified my reactions. I explained myself instead of apologizing. I said things like, "That's not what I meant," when what they were really saying was, "That hurt." And somehow I convinced myself that intent mattered more than impact. It doesn't. I see now how exhausting that must have been. Loving someone who needed reassurance but resisted vulnerability. Someone who wanted closeness but panicked when it actually arrived. Someone who asked for honesty but flinched when it showed up. I wanted to be understood without explaining myself. I wanted patience without offering clarity. I wanted loyalty without giving emotional safety. That's not fair. I think about how often I confused intensity with connection, how I thought feeling deeply meant I was loving deeply, how I mistook anxiety for passion and attachment for commitment. I was loud in my love at the beginning, texts, effort, attention, and then quieter when fear took over. Shorter replies, longer pauses, walls disguised as space. I didn't realize how confusing that was, how unsafe inconsistency feels to someone who's trying to love you. And when they finally pulled away, I played the victim. I told myself they gave up, that they didn't fight hard enough, that they didn't love me the way I loved them. But love isn't measured by how much you feel. It's measured by how you treat people when you're triggered, and that's where I failed. I think about the moments I chose pride over peace, being right over being kind, control over connection. I didn't know how to sit with discomfort, so I reacted. I didn't know how to express fear, so I disguised it as distance. I didn't know how to trust calm love, so I looked for problems to stay alert. And slowly, quietly, the people I cared about started to feel like they were walking on eggshells around me. That realization hurts in a way I can't explain, because I never wanted to be someone who drains the people they love. I never wanted to be the source of confusion. I never wanted to make anyone feel like they had to earn peace with me. But intention doesn't undo damage. And that's the part I had to sit with. The idea that I wasn't a monster, but I wasn't safe either. I carried unresolved wounds into relationships and expected them to adapt. I let past hurt speak louder than present reality. I let fear decide how I showed up, and every time someone left, it reinforced the belief that I wasn't worth staying for, without realizing I was helping create the very ending I feared. That's the trap. Fear of abandonment creates behavior that pushes people away, then uses their absence as proof that the fear was justified. I lived in that loop for a long time, and breaking it meant accepting something uncomfortable. I didn't need to be loved harder. I needed to love healthier. I needed to stop asking people to save me from myself. And that's when the question changed. It stopped being, what if I'm the problem, and became, what am I going to do about it? That question didn't have an easy answer. What am I going to do about it? Because recognizing the pattern was painful, but changing it meant letting go of the version of myself I'd been defending for years. I had to stop romanticizing my pain. I wasn't deep for overthinking. I wasn't passionate for reacting emotionally. I wasn't guarded. I was afraid. And fear had been driving the wheel far longer than I wanted to admit. The first thing I had to accept was this. My feelings were valid, but my reactions weren't always healthy. Being triggered doesn't mean being right. Being hurt doesn't give you permission to hurt back, even quietly, even unintentionally. So I started doing the hardest thing I knew how to do. I paused. Not perfectly, not every time, but intentionally. When I felt that familiar tightening in my chest, the urge to pull away, to go silent, to test, I stopped and asked myself what was actually happening. Was I responding to the present or reliving the past? Most of the time, it was the past. Old wounds speaking through a new situation, old fears projecting onto someone who hadn't done anything wrong. I had to learn how to say things I used to hide. I'm feeling insecure right now. I'm scared of losing you. I don't need space, I need reassurance. Those sentences felt humiliating at first. Vulnerability always does when you've mistaken independence for strength. But something changed when I started being honest instead of strategic. I stopped trying to control outcomes. I stopped manipulating situations to protect my ego. I stopped expecting people to read my mind. And for the first time, I realized something important. Healthy love doesn't need tests. It needs clarity. It needs consistency. It needs self-awareness. I also had to take responsibility for my healing, not as a concept, but as a daily practice. That meant unpacking why silence terrified me, why I associated calm with disinterest, why I equated being chosen with being worthy. It meant admitting that some of my insecurities weren't caused by relationships at all. They existed long before them. Love didn't break me, it revealed me. And instead of blaming the mirror, I started listening to it. I began setting standards, not for others, but for myself. I don't punish people for my triggers anymore. I don't withdraw to feel powerful. I don't turn fear into distance, and when I mess up, and because I still do, I own it. No defensiveness, no justifications, no turning apologies into explanations. Just accountability. Because growth isn't about never hurting people, or it's about noticing when you do, and caring enough to change. I don't see myself as the problem anymore. I see myself as someone who was unprepared and chose to become better instead of bitter. And maybe that's the real resolution. Not pretending the past didn't happen, not erasing the damage, but learning from it deeply enough that it doesn't repeat. So if love comes back into my life, and I believe it will, it won't meet the version of me that was terrified of losing it. It'll meet someone who knows who they are. Someone who doesn't chase reassurance. Someone who doesn't confuse intensity with intimacy. Someone who understands that love isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, honest, accountable, and finally, ready. When she left me, I didn't know if I would ever be okay again. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, terrifying way. I remember the exact moment it became real. Not when she said the words, but when the room felt different after. Like the air had weight. Like something invisible had packed its bags and walked out before I could stop it. When she left me, the world didn't fall apart. I did. I kept waking up expecting a text that wasn't coming. Kept checking my phone like muscle memory would somehow rewrite reality. I'd replay old conversations over and over, looking for the moment I should have done something different. Said something softer, listened longer, cared louder. The worst part wasn't losing her. It was realizing I helped push her away. I didn't cheat, I didn't lie, but I wasn't present. I was there without being there, and that might hurt more. I thought love was just staying. I didn't realize it was showing up, even when it was uncomfortable, even when it required change. After she left, everything became quiet, too quiet. The silence followed me everywhere. In the car, in the gym, in bed at night when my thoughts got louder than my breathing. I'd stare at the ceiling wondering how someone could mean everything to you one day and be gone the next. I missed her in ways I couldn't explain. I missed the version of myself I was when she loved me. I started questioning everything, my worth, my efforts, whether I was ever enough or just convenient. And the scariest thought kept creeping in. What if this was my one chance? And I blew it. There were nights I felt completely hollow, like I was moving through life on autopilot, smiling when I was supposed to, laughing when it was expected, but breaking down the second I was alone. Heartbreak doesn't scream, it whispers, and it whispers all the worst things about you. It told me I waited too long, that I took her for granted, that I loved too passively, and the truth is, some of that was right. I didn't lose her because I didn't care. I lost her because I didn't show it the way she needed. That realization hurts more than the breakup itself. But here's the part nobody talks about. There came a moment when I realized missing her wasn't killing me. Avoiding growth was. Pain either repeats you or rebuilds you. And I got tired of repeating myself. I stopped asking, why did she leave? And started asking, who was I when she did? I learned that love isn't just intensity. It's consistency. It's presence. It's accountability without being asked. I learned that saying I love you means nothing if your actions never back it up. And slowly, quietly, I started changing. Not for her, not to win her back, but because I never want to be the reason someone feels alone while standing right next to me again. I still miss her, but I don't hate myself anymore for losing her, because now I understand something I didn't before. She wasn't just someone I loved. She was a lesson I needed. She didn't leave to destroy me. She left to wake me up, and today, I'm not healed. I'm not over it. But I'm better. I communicate now. I listen without waiting to respond. I show love in ways that don't require reminders. I'm becoming the man I should have been back then. And maybe she'll never see that version of me, but someone will. And when that happens, this heartbreak won't have been pointless. Because losing her taught me how to love deeper, stand firmer, and never again let comfort replace effort. She was the chapter that hurt the most, but she's also the reason the story gets better from here. And if you're wondering how I'm doing now, I'm still standing, still growing, and finally moving forward. I can feel it in my chest already. The weight of knowing tonight is going to be like every other Valentine's Day I've lived through. Loud, celebratory for everyone else, and silent for me. 19 Valentine's Days, and I've spent most of them alone. I should have stopped counting years ago, but I didn't. I've kept a tally, and every single one makes me feel smaller, like some version of me disappeared each time I saw someone else laughing, holding hands, texting heart emojis. It's stupid really how obsessed I've gotten with noticing what I don't have. But obsession is easy when loneliness is permanent. I walk through the halls of school or scroll past the endless couples celebrating posts on social media, and I can't help noticing how effortless it all looks. Couples smiling at each other in pictures I'm not in. Love notes and dinners that feel like they exist in a parallel universe I was never invited to. And I hate myself for noticing, for letting it hurt me, for letting it remind me of every missed opportunity, every failed attempt at connection, every time I let someone slip through my fingers because I was too scared, too awkward, or too wrapped up in myself to make it happen. And tonight, the thought creeps back, the one I hate admitting even to myself. What if this year I just stop existing for a bit? Not permanently, not like an end, just a pause. A space where the constant reminder of absence doesn't hit me every time I see a couple laughing across the room or in my feed. I don't want to die, I just want relief. Relief from noticing what I'll never have. Relief from the echo of everyone else's love bouncing off my own empty walls. I've convinced myself over and over that it's fine, that being alone isn't the end of the world. But tonight, I'm not convinced. Tonight, I remember the way I shrank myself all those years, how I made myself smaller, quieter, almost invisible, because the thought of pushing myself forward and failing felt unbearable. I see the pattern now. Every crush I had, every girl I liked, I pulled back before they could leave me, before they could reject me, before I could risk loving and losing. And now I'm here. 19 Valentine's Days in, and I've built this wall around myself that no one can breach, and somehow it hurts even more than being hurt would have. I remember last year, the one I spent texting my friends who were all in relationships pretending like I was laughing too, pretending like it didn't matter. The way my heart raced when I saw a girl I liked post a story with someone else. The quiet ache that followed me to bed where I stared at the ceiling and wondered if I'd ever feel something real, something I could hold on to. And the thing that hurts the most isn't that I was alone, it's that I knew I'd likely be alone again. That the cycle repeats because I never fully show up. I never take the leap. I shrink, I hide, I wait for someone else to notice me, and no one ever does. And tonight I feel that familiar, hollow pit again. The one that sits in my stomach and spreads to my chest and my head until it's all I can feel. I know some people would call it dramatic, would say I'm overthinking, would tell me to just enjoy yourself. But they don't know what it feels like to be invisible in a world that's obsessed with visibility. They don't know how it feels to exist for 19 Valentine's Days, to try to convince yourself it doesn't matter, while every picture, every post, every laugh you witness feels like another brick in the wall you built around yourself. And I wonder how much of it is my fault, how much of it is the way I let fear run my decisions, how much of it is me shrinking, hiding, being too scared to put myself out there, to risk rejection, to risk disappointment, because I've realized something painful over the years. I've had chances. I've had moments where I could have tried, and I didn't. I've let my own insecurities dictate my life, and now I'm paying for it. 19 Valentine's Days in, and it's not just a day on the calendar. It's a reflection of every choice I've ever made to protect myself instead of fight for myself. And the worst part? I know I'll do it again next year if nothing changes. I'll convince myself I'm okay. I'll scroll past the posts, smile when I'm asked how my day went, pretend like I'm fine. I'll stay small. I'll stay quiet. I'll let fear dictate my heart again. But tonight I can't pretend. Tonight, the weight of being 19 and alone is real, tangible, and relentless. And I can't ignore it. I can't stop replaying it. The moment I realized this wasn't just another Valentine's Day where I'd sit quietly alone and pretend it didn't matter. It hit me differently this year. Maybe it's because I'm older now, 19, and I can feel how much time has slipped through my hands. How many opportunities I let slide because I was too scared, too self-conscious, too convinced that my loneliness was somehow safer than risking love. And maybe that's why it hurts so much tonight. Because I know now that safety has its own cost, and it's heavy. It presses down like someone sitting on your chest, quiet but unrelenting. I remember sitting on my bed earlier scrolling through the endless streams of happy couples, and every post, every photo, every video is a knife I can't dodge. There's her laughing at a joke with someone else, him holding her hand, brushing her hair from her face. And I sit here, frozen, wondering what I did wrong, what I didn't do, why my heart feels like a constant, unending echo chamber of longing. I know I should be grateful for what I have, my friends, my family, my life, but gratitude doesn't drown out the loneliness. It doesn't fill the empty space where connection should live. I thought about texting her tonight. The one I liked, the one I've always liked, the one I never tried to really have because I've been hiding behind fear for as long as I can remember. I thought about typing something casual, maybe funny, something to get her attention, but then my chest tightened and I stopped. I realized that even if I sent the message, even if she responded, I wouldn't know what to do next. My fear would take over, my insecurities would choke the moment, and I'd retreat again, leaving the opportunity unclaimed. And the thought of repeating that cycle, another year of watching someone I care about live a life I'm not part of, it's suffocating. And that's when the thoughts got louder. Not violent, not dramatic, but the ones I try to hide from everyone. The ones that whisper, "It would be easier if you weren't here for a while." Not gone forever, just paused. Like stepping out of a movie I've been forced to watch for 19 years. The one where everyone else seems to know the script and I'm stuck repeating lines I can't remember. I hate admitting it, but it's true. I've thought about it more than once tonight. Not as a threat, not as something I'd act on, but as relief. Relief from the constant self-loathing. Relief from feeling so small and insignificant. Relief from wondering why love never seems to find me. I hate myself for even thinking that way, because deep down I know the problem isn't the world. It's me. It's always been me. I shrink myself too much. I stop talking. I stay quiet. I overanalyze everything and then I withdraw before anyone can see the real me. I push people away before they have the chance to leave. And it works, in a way, because the heartbreak is quieter that way. But it also leaves me with this gnawing emptiness that only grows stronger each year. I've watched friends fall in love, fall out of love, fall in again, and I wonder if I'll ever have the courage to stop shrinking, to risk rejection, to let someone see the real, messy, terrified version of me that hides behind the carefully constructed mask. I remember last year, the last Valentine's Day, I tried to distract myself with games, social media, music. I convinced myself it didn't matter, but it did. It always does. Tonight, though, the realization is harsher. 19 Valentine's Days alone isn't just a number. It's a mirror, a reflection of every time I didn't speak up, every time I didn't reach out, every time I convinced myself I wasn't worth someone else's time. And now, looking back, I see the pattern more clearly than ever. I've spent almost 2 decades hiding from intimacy, from vulnerability, from the very thing I crave more than anything, to matter to someone in a way that can't be replicated by texts or likes or fleeting attention. And yet, even with all that clarity, I sit here scrolling, staring, aching, wishing for a love that's not coming tonight, maybe not ever. And I'm left with the unbearable truth. It isn't just the world that's missing me, it's me missing me. The me who had courage, who took chances, who tried despite fear. That me has been gone for a long time, and tonight on my 19th Valentine's Day alone, I feel it more sharply than I ever have before. I feel the weight of my choices, my cowardice, my pattern of avoidance. I feel it in every corner of my chest, in every beat of my heart, in every sigh I can't hold back. And for the first time in a long time, I don't just feel lonely, I feel accountable for the loneliness, and it's heavier than anything else. I can't stop thinking about the moments I let slip away, the chances I ignored, the words I didn't say, the smiles I didn't risk sharing. I think about all the girls I liked in the past, some I never told, some I tried to love quietly, all of them disappearing from my life because I wasn't brave enough to show the real me. And tonight, on my 19th Valentine's Day alone, that pattern presses against me like a weight I can't shake. It's not just loneliness, it's regret. Sharp, endless regret. I remember the first time I realized I was capable of love, really feeling it, and also the first time I felt the sting of rejection or indifference, or just being overlooked. And somehow I've spent almost 2 decades carrying that fear in every interaction, every crush, every fleeting connection. I shrink myself before anyone else can leave me, and I build these invisible walls so high that even I can't climb over them. And the cruel irony is that the walls are meant to protect me, but they only leave me hollow, staring at everyone else's happiness and asking why I'm not allowed the same. Tonight the thoughts get darker, not in a way that would scare someone else, but dark enough to scare me. I imagine what it would feel like if I just stopped existing for a while. Not permanently, not as an end, just a pause, a moment where the pressure lifts, where I don't have to witness the reminders of what I lack, where I don't have to feel every heartbeat echo with absence. It's not death I want, it's relief. A silent, invisible retreat from a world that celebrates connections I've never fully had. I hate myself for thinking it. I hate that the relief seems almost tempting, but when the weight presses down this hard, even the idea of stepping away becomes a fragile comfort. And I realize something even scarier. I've been training myself to accept this. 19 Valentine's days, and I've learned to normalize the ache, the isolation, the pattern of invisibility. I tell myself I'm okay, I tell myself it's just another day, another date on the calendar. But the truth is that my mind refuses to lie to me tonight. It won't let me pretend anymore. Every story, every photo, every couple laughing somewhere else is a mirror, reflecting my own inaction, my own fear, my own choice to stay small, to shrink, to hide. I see the years I wasted being careful, being quiet, and it makes me want to scream. Not at anyone else, but at myself. I keep thinking about the one I liked this year, the one I didn't have the courage to approach, to talk to risk being rejected by. I imagine her laughing with someone else, someone braver than I am, someone willing to make themselves seen. And I can't help the tightening in my chest, the hot ache in my throat, the ache that feels like it will spill out through my skin if I don't find a way to breathe. I hate how much I care. I hate that I feel so deeply and yet so uselessly. There were moments earlier when I thought about texting her, not to confess anything, not to plead, just to reach out. But I stopped. Because even if I did, I know I'd falter. I'd retreat. I'd chicken out before anything meaningful could happen. And I'd be left with the same regret I've carried for years. The regret of knowing I wanted something but being too afraid to fight for it. I realize now that this is the real heartbreak. The one that doesn't come from someone leaving or someone betraying you or being hurt by someone else. This heartbreak comes from within. It's built from patterns I've reinforced. From years of letting fear dictate my life. From shrinking myself until my presence barely feels tangible even to myself. And tonight it presses down so hard I can't ignore it. And yet, even in the midst of this despair, I feel a flicker. A tiny, reluctant realization that maybe, just maybe, this pain isn't permanent. That acknowledging my patterns, admitting my fear, staring it all in the face, is the first step toward changing it. I can't fix 19 years in one day. I can't undo the loneliness or the regrets or the walls I've built. But I can start somewhere. I can start by admitting how much this hurts, by admitting how much I've been hiding, by admitting that the thought of ending it isn't shameful. It's a signal that I need to do better for myself. Tonight, on my 19th Valentine's Day alone, I don't have love from anyone else, but I do have awareness. I have reflection. I have recognition. And maybe that's the first, quiet, fragile step toward not spending the next 19 Valentine's Days the same way. By the time the night ends, the world feels quieter, the celebrations fade, the laughter on social media, the posts of couples holding hands, the chocolate-covered hearts, they all blur into the background, leaving me with my own thoughts. And I realize something. This isn't just a day about being alone. It's a mirror, a reflection of how I've lived, how I've retreated, how I've convinced myself that safety meant shrinking, that fear meant protection. And now staring at the ceiling, scrolling endlessly, letting the glow of my phone illuminate the hollow spaces inside me, I see all the ways I've been complicit in my own loneliness. I think about the patterns I've carried for years, the way I've avoided risk, avoided vulnerability, avoided even admitting the depth of what I want to myself, the way I let opportunities slip because I was too scared to fail, too scared to reach out, too scared to exist fully in someone else's life, in case they decided I wasn't enough. And tonight, after 19 Valentine's days, that fear sits heavier than ever, because I realize it's not just fear, it's habit. It's the way I've conditioned myself to accept being on the sidelines, to watch, to envy, to long, to ache. I remember the small moments, the tiny cracks of possibility I ignored. The girl I liked last year, the conversations I didn't start, the smiles I didn't risk returning, the texts I never sent because I was terrified of overstepping, of being too much, of being rejected. Every time I shrank, every time I silenced myself, every time I told myself later instead of now, I let a piece of connection slip through my hands. And now at 19, I feel the sum of all those slips pressing against me, and it's heavy enough to make me want to vanish just for a little while. Not forever, not to escape life, just to escape the weight of what I've done to myself. I lie in bed and think about how often I've convinced myself that being alone was a choice, when in reality it's been a consequence of my own fear, my own hesitation, my own refusal to risk what I wanted the most. And the worst part is that I see it so clearly now. I see the walls I've built around myself, the safety I've clung to like a shield, and the way it has left me craving something I've never let myself fully pursue. I see the irony. I've been protecting myself from heartbreak, but the real heartbreak is the one I've inflicted on myself year after year, and I hate myself for it. Not in a fleeting, dramatic way, but in the quiet, relentless way that sinks into your bones. I hate that I let fear dictate how I showed up in life, how I treated the people I cared about, how I treated myself. I hate that I let 19 Valentine's days pass and I'm still here, sitting alone thinking about all the ways I could have tried harder, been braver, risked rejection, risked failure, risked everything that matters. But even in this self-directed anger, there's a flicker, a tiny, stubborn realization that maybe I can still do something about it. Maybe awareness is the first step. Maybe admitting my patterns, my mistakes, my fear, my longing is the first act of courage I've truly shown. And it's messy, it's uncomfortable. It doesn't erase the past, and it doesn't magically fill the empty spaces I've carried for 19 years. But it's something, and sometimes something is the first step toward change. So I close my eyes even as the glow of my phone fades, and I imagine what it might feel like to show up differently next year, to speak first, to risk, to care openly, fully, without shrinking, to let myself be seen, to let someone else see me the way I've always wanted. And I realize that this is the only Valentine's Day I've ever truly owned, the one where I see the full truth of myself, the fear, the failure, the ache, and maybe, just maybe, the courage to change it. 19 Valentine's days alone, 19 years of shrinking, waiting, hiding, longing, and tonight for the first time, I let myself acknowledge it. All of it, the loneliness, the mistakes, the fear, and maybe tomorrow or the day after or next year, I'll try something different, I'll risk, I'll step forward, I'll speak up, I'll exist fully even if it scares me. And for the first time in a long time, that thought doesn't feel like loneliness, it feels like possibility.